Hello everybody, this is Monty, and sorry for the tilt on the camera there that I now see. Kind of hard to get this thing set up perfectly straight when it's resting on pillows. I don't have a tripod. We'll fix that soon in the future. But what I want to talk about today is the difference between bushcraft, survivalism, and people that are preparing for the apocalypse. Now, I've done bushcraft skills off and on since the mid to late 70s, when my friends and I in grade school decided that we were going to hate civilization and become mountain men. There's like 4 or 5 of us, and from that day forwards we got our hands on every survival book we could find. I'm talking, 76, 77, more like 77, 78 is when it started. And we read up and studied, and all the way up and through high school, and even before high school, my family would go deer hunting in eastern Oregon. And us kids, we would take pine boughs, build a mattress on the ground, 1.5 feet deep, and then build a lean-to with plastic. Build a lean-to that put plastic over it to shed the rain if it rained. And we hunted that way for years, and we'd stay out there a week, week and a half, 2 weeks, eating off the fire, whatever the Coleman camp stove. Those were good years. And yes, in that time of the year, it got darn cold during the night. And we're talking October, and it was hot during the day. So there was all sorts of little survivalist things, bushcraft things that we did. Not survivalist, but bushcraft. And keep in mind, back then there was no YouTube, there was no handheld camcorders like this that we have now. There was no internet, there was no computers. So everything we tried to learn from books. And I have learning disorders, so it's very hard for me to sit down and read something, try to make it make sense to me, and then go out and do it. So, when I like doing, I could do feather sticks all day. But doing the bow drill fire, the hand drill, I got close a couple times. I got the coal, I got the smoke, but I never did get a fire. And we're talking when I was very young. I had no way to really process the information. And nowadays we have computers, YouTube, and handheld camcorders. So of course YouTube is just flooded with survivalist bushcraft videos, which I just love. Now I can go out there now and do a bow drill fire because I saw it, how it was done. And I didn't try to understand it from a written explanation. But besides that, practicing bushcraft, I lived on a ranch. I would take off in the morning before it got light and go run around the mountains hiking with my .270 rifle and my .22 pistol on my hip, my backpack. And I wouldn't come back till after dark. That's how I lived most of my life. Now that I've run into like financial ruin, and now that I'm starting to put my kit back together, because I had to sell everything. I had like 20 rifles and pistols. I had to sell all of that to keep a roof over my head. But slowly, bit by bit, I've got the Schrade, what do they call this now? The Skax 2L, sharpening stone with it. I got some knives. I'll do a little talk about them later. But I'm going to start doing these things now. And since I've started watching YouTube, I've seen the differences of people trying to explain, okay, now this is what bushcraft is. And if you have bushcraft skills, of course, they lend themselves to survivalist skills. Being prepped, or preppers as they call them. Now, I'm a fundamentalist Christian, and the whole attitude behind this prepping is from, if you believe it or not, a Christian understanding of scriptures. Because these people see this coming apocalypse, which is that Daniel 70th week, and they're trying in their own mind to say, now, if I have this bag, I can get out of here for a couple weeks. And then when things calm down, I can come back. And, I don't think really many of them realize that once this process starts, it's going to be like 7 years. And if you don't have 7 years worth of prepared stuff set somewhere that no one can find you, you're not going to succeed at this. You're going to have 5 or 6 different locations, all of them prepped, so that you can move and not be spotted by satellites in the air. You have to have a way to cover up your heat, your smoke, everything. Now there will be a time frame when they won't be focusing so much on finding you, that they'll be dealing with wars and everything else. But once that one world government starts, and you see the mark of the beast and that kind of stuff come out halfway through the 7-year tribulation, that's when you're going to have to really be ready. Now I believe some people will actually make it through this time frame, and it's probably because those people are preppers, because they've taken the time. You know, they've taken made a little survival dungeon, you know, somewhere out in the middle of nowhere that no one's going to find. I, however, believe those numbers will be very few. I don't think people realize just how bad things are going to be. According to the Bible here, during this 7-year tribulation, Daniel's 70th week, time of Jacob's trouble, 2/3 of this world's population is going to die. 2/3. There's a little over 7 billion now, so you're talking over 4 billion people are going to die. Because there's going to be cataclysmic things that you just can't get away from. I mean, figure an earthquake off the Oregon coast, which they're talked about a lot, where it's going to wipe out 50 miles of the coastline. That's millions of people right there. You can't run from that. You can't go up 300 feet elevation next to the coast and think you're going to get away from something like that. You won't survive it. Now, being a fundamentalist Christian, I believe in the pre-tribulation rapture. Yes, I will set aside some supplies for like a 30, 90-day time frame where if something does happen, like say a dam breaks, we lose power, or RFID bomb, or I mean EMP, electromagnetic pulse, something like that happens, then I can survive. But as a fundamentalist Christian, I'm looking for the pre-tribulation rapture. And we're told not to worry about these things. You know, we're not going to be here for that. And a lot of the Christian church does not believe in the pre-tribulation rapture. They won't accept it. So they think that they're going to prepare and head to the hills to escape the apocalypse, the zombie apocalypse, the preppers mentality. I don't have that. I just enjoy going out in the woods, building fires, going deer hunting, rabbit hunting, squirrel hunting, eating what I kill. But according to this book, you preppers, not very many of you are going to make it. And you're not going to have the preparedness to do it. Because you're going to have a consistent supply of food. And going out into the wilds, as anyone with any experience will tell you, it can be done. But you have to know everything about conservation of energy, of movement. And if you're trying to escape someone, you're not going to have any idea how to get out of that mode, because you're going to be running all the time. You're not going to be able to set up shop where you can rest for a couple of weeks, regain your strength, and run again. Very few people will make it. Very few people have the understanding or the capabilities, including myself, to take off with just a backpack, and survive for 7 years. Because the mentality is all wrong. You're not going to be out there for just 90 days off of one prepper bag. You're going to have to set up a couple sites, couple more than a few, 5 or 6. Each of them prepared to stay 2.5 years, sustain you. And you're going to have to be able to move from that site. And all of this is going to be taking place on foot, because you're not going to be able to drive your car around, because that's all tracked by GPS now. Whether they tell you that or not, it is. You have to have a real old car, and even then, if they see people driving around in the woods in a real old car from the air or a satellite, well, they're going to come get you. So while I have gained a lot of knowledge from watching some of these videos, I think the end game for the preppers is a moot point. You're not going to get away. You're not going to have enough. You're not going to have knowledge. You're not going to have enough prepped out there to survive, separated from this system, this government, this society. You're just not going to be able to do it. So I'd encourage people now, enjoy the outdoors like I do. And as soon as this, the West Coast stops burning down and we get some rain, I'm going to head back up out there in the hills. I'm going to make some videos. Even though this month of September coming up is going to be an interesting one according to the scriptures. All these things converging, which most of you won't have any idea what I'm talking about, which is fine. I have another channel, it's called The Rapture Comes, all caps, on YouTube, so if you want to know anything spiritual, check me out there. But, in short, preppers, if you're serious, if you're a real prepper, you cannot be taking over man-made missile silos thinking you're going to survive. You cannot make public preparations and think you're going to survive, because you're truly going to have to separate yourself from society as a whole, and you got to be able to do so for a time period of no less than 7 years. I mean, you could have some system set up, but what happens when we have an 8.9 magnitude earthquake on the West Coast, followed by, say, Yellowstone blowing up? You know, it's going to be tough. It's going to be death wholesale. I pray that there's some out there that do make it. You know, that God, through His omnipresence, His all-power, omnipotent, puts some people in a place that He knows aren't going to believe now, that will become believers, and they survive. But if you're a prepper, it's going to be tough. It is going to be tough, because it's not going to be a 90-day bug out. Because you're still going to have to come back to a society that's going to put a chip in your right hand to your forehead and tell you how you're going to live and who you're going to worship. If you're prepared to escape that for 7 years, then you might have a chance. And if you really have prepared for it, because this little teeny preparation stuff I see on YouTube isn't going to cut it. Alright, I know I probably pissed a lot of people off, but I'm sorry. Bad things are coming. The scriptures have been speaking about these bad things for a very long time. We're at the point now where we see them, because, you know, the generation that saw Israel become a nation again is the same generation that will see the second advent of Christ. Now that generation is 67 years old. The rapture is at least 7 years before the second advent. But most of the people don't believe in the rapture, and most of the people on the face of this planet don't believe in Christ. So the vast majority is going to go through this time frame. And we're there now. It may be tomorrow, it may be September, it may be a couple of years out, but we're there. I wouldn't plan on a couple of years, not by what I'm seeing going on in the month of September. But I'm going to continue making videos once I get out in the woods, show my old-timer logic and skills, and just enjoy myself, get the gospel out while I can, make some videos about that and survival stuff, not survival, but bushcraft, and just enjoy my life until it's time to go, because that time is coming soon. And preppers, I don't think you're going to make it. Bye.